A lot of conversation at the moment around vaccination, or more specifically, those opposed to it. I'm joined today by Lisa Wiedrich, and her mum is in a aged care facility and has the vaccination regularly, but Lisa has been told that she can't visit her mum unless she also has the vaccination. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt.
When you were first told that you couldn't visit your mum, what sort of thoughts or response did you have to that?
Yeah, good question. I was a bit horrified, really. I wouldn't have expected it to get quite to that level, where the only option to see my mother was to be vaccinated and have our whole family vaccinated.
And I'm assuming that you haven't had the vaccination and you have no desire to?
Absolutely. I actually have worked in the pharma industry, and I had a vaccination once, probably about, 18 years ago or so. And I was the sickest I'd ever been with the flu when I had it. So I swore I'd never have it again. And I also, I just don't think it's for me. And I don't feel, being a healthy person with a good immune system, as are my children, that really I need to have a vaccination against the flu.
Your mum has had the vaccination and has had it annually for the last 15 years. Is that a choice that she's always made, or is that a requirement from where she is staying?
No, that's her choice. And, we've had conversations about it in the past. I don't necessarily, again, I want to say here too that I'm not necessarily anti-vaccination, but I do like to look at each one on its individual merits. And I feel that, the flu vaccine has its definitely cons around it. It's not the most reliable vaccination out there. But again, it's her choice. And I think that's my key point around this too, is having choice. And to have choice taken away is where I really struggle. So if she wants to have a vaccination and she's aware of the pros and cons around it, then that's completely her choice as well.
And this definitely came into the limelight on the back of some professional sports people that have chosen not to have the vaccination, and therefore have it's been suggested to them that they might not be allowed to play in the upcoming season. But you mentioned choice then, and I think there's a lot of opinions out there, and hence why I wanted to get you on today to have this conversation. There's a lot of opinions without necessarily any knowledge behind that. This is obviously something that you've put some thought into over the years. What for you is the biggest concern about having the vaccination?
Well, again, it's a vaccination that's definitely not 100%. Well, the efficacy is just not there around it. So just for the sheer manufacturing processes and the way the flu evolves and we have different strains manifesting every year, it can't keep up. So I think the efficacy around it is only sitting at about 30-40% anyway. So for people to think that they're going to have a flu vaccination and never get the flu is ridiculous. It doesn't work that way. So when I see the comparison to something like polio or things that we've managed to wipe out in the past, this vaccination is not the same as that. So I don't see why I should be injecting my body with stuff that I'm not even sure what's in that. I mean, we can look up the ingredients and stuff, and there's a whole other conversation you can have around that. But I think more emphasis needs to go towards keeping ourselves healthy and our immune systems healthy. And I don't feel there's enough discussion around that. There should be public health campaigns around how we maintain our own individual health and take responsibility for that.
It's worth mentioning that the residence where your mother is staying, it's not necessarily their point of view that you can't see your mum. It's come from the federal government, essentially.
Absolutely. My mum's devastated, and she actually understands my point. We speak on the phone every day. And she actually said to me the other day, but hang on, if I'm vaccinated, why do you need to be vaccinated? And I said, well, yeah, that's what I'm not actually understanding here. And if the healthcare or the aged care facility decided that they didn't want anyone entering without a vaccination, even then I can understand it, but they won't actually even let her out to see me. I could stand outside the door and wait. Or I actually went into a shop yesterday at the plaza, and they did a temperature check before you walked in. I thought, that's fine. That's fine. Why not introduce something like that? It's non-invasive. It makes perfect sense.
Can you explain that process, Lisa? What happens with that temperature measurement?
It's just, all it is the temperature, I don't know, machine. It's not even a machine, you know, the little tools, the handheld tools.
Right.
And you just stand there and they put it on your forehead and they check your temperature, make sure you don't have a fever, and then you can walk in. Again, I'm not against anything like that. That makes complete sense to me. So why not introduce something like that, perhaps?
Sure. When was the last time you saw your mum?
Well, we're a little bit sneaky yesterday. So I dropped a bag off to her of goodies, and there's a double door there, and she was on the other side, and we kind of held the doors open a little bit. We still kept them 1.5 meters apart. We were good. We didn't do the hugs, but we did a bit of a face-to-face. That was nice. And like I said, we speak every day on the phone. But to physically hug her, it's probably been about 2 months.
Wow. Must be tough. And for the whole family, right? That must be really tough.
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. But again, you know, I have really healthy children with great immune systems, and I don't see why I should be vaccinating them so they can go and visit their grandmother. So we are looking at other options.
Well, that's a good point, and one I'd like to finish on. Now, your kids, I'm guessing, haven't been vaccinated?
When they were younger, yes, they did have their vaccinations. Again, I'm not necessarily a anti or pro-vaccination person. I do believe I'm looking at each one on its individual merit. So they haven't had all of them when they got older. I think when, was it year 8 or something, when they're supposed to have their last round of vaccinations, there are a few in there. I went, no, they don't need those.
Can I ask why? Can I ask why you chose not to finish them off?
Yeah, well, I certainly, when I looked at the research around the, what is it, the HPV one or whatever it is, I just thought, no, I just don't agree with that.
Did you think there might be health implications if they had it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's enough research and data out there to say that, I don't know, there's been quite a few cases where it's created very negative health impacts on some of the people that have had it, or kids, I should say. They're kids, aren't they? That have had it. So I just made that choice to not vaccinate them on that one. But when they were younger, they did have their vaccinations.
Sure.
So where were we? What was the question?
Well, let's
before we went there.
I'm really concerned.
Just prior to that.
I can't remember. It can't have been a very good question, Lisa. I'm really concerned about this situation with your mum, because I'm sure it's not an isolated case. This must be happening all over the country and overseas.
Absolutely.
Have the powers that be given you an idea of when you can potentially hang out with your mum again?
No, they've basically said that that's it, unless you get vaccinated. And I do know I have friends that work in the healthcare industry and are reps in sales roles that visit aged care regularly and also provide educational support, and they have to have their vaccinations to go in. Contractors, delivery people. It's certainly not just relatives, it's certainly not just staff. So it extends quite broadly, anyone that sets foot. So if you've got a electrician coming in, anyone has to have their vaccination. So this is where I'm just...
And if I'm one of those contractors and I haven't had the vaccination, but I just go in and say, yes, I have, everything's sweet, how can they find out if I have or haven't?
I think from my understanding is you actually have to have proof and you have to sign a declaration. So then I guess because you've signed the declaration to say you have had your vaccination, you're legally responsible for that, and there could be implications.
Do you have any inkling to have the vaccination just so you can see your mum?
I know, it's a really tough one, isn't it? It's awful. It's an awful position to be put in. No, because I am going down the pathway of looking into alternative arrangements. So I'm now looking at a granny flat in the backyard and nursing support for her here.
I noticed in a post you did recently that you were very adamant about getting her out of the aged care facility. Is that something that you're still feeling strongly
Yes.
about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've already started to make inquiries on a cabin or granny flat for the backyard. So that's in the process, definitely. And look, if she was happy where she was, and I definitely felt it was the best thing for her, then I would, have to reconsider that decision, I guess, and look at whether I did have the vaccine or not. But the current situation is that she would much rather be here anyway. I did put her in there originally based on medical advice, but now, with these current circumstances, I've reassessed that, and our situation has changed as well. We bought a house in the last year too, so I'm able to do that where I wasn't able to do that before.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but if we weren't in the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic, you would still have to have the vaccination to see your mum.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's not just because of everyone's on high alert because of coronavirus.
No. So we haven't actually been allowed to go into the aged care facility at all during COVID-19. I can understand that. I can understand that they want to protect their vulnerable residents, citizens. So no problem with that. So we were waiting for the end of that to be told, okay, we can now start introducing visits again. But now the introduction of visits are based on whether you've had a vaccination or not, and that seems to be long term. There's no end date on that. It seems to be mandated that from now on, if you don't have a vaccination, you cannot set foot inside the facility.
And that's nationwide, as far as you're aware?
As far as I'm aware, yes.
It sounds like a granny flat in the backyard will stop needing to do the sneaky visits, Lisa.
Exactly, and she'll be a lot happier too. So, I think it's a good outcome in the end, but I've certainly copped a bit of flack over it too. So
in what way?
Interesting. Just people just saying, I should just suck it up and get the vaccination, and we should all get our vaccinations and just go along with the mandating. But again, I think I need to make a stand here, and I don't agree on mandating. I'm not anti-vaccination as such, but I do not agree on it being forced.
We should be allowed to choose if we have a vaccination or not.
Yeah, it's our bodies. It's our bodies. And again, you've got to look at the efficacy of this individual vaccine. It's not high.
Lots to think about. Lisa Wiedrich, thanks for the chat today.
My pleasure. Thank you.